This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I have some research and YouTube questions we'll start out with today, but we are mostly going to be covering what's going on in Jack and Nora's life over 1997. I found more interesting information in regards to uses of different names, once again, which we know that Jack has done throughout his lifetime. But some of them are a little astonishing because they are actually repeats or duplicates of names that were used that he was charged criminally with in some of his, like the poaching incident or the assault with a deadly weapon. And the way that he actually was able to get bonded out on a completely different name. So we're seeing a repeat of those names. And it looks to me to be about a 10 or 15-year difference between the use of those names, but he is still using them in the 1990s. So we'll start with our YouTube comments that I got in this last week. And it was quite a long one, so it's going to take a couple slides, but I tried to answer most of the questions with a succinct answer in regards to everything. So I'm not going to read. I'm just going to kind of highlight what this person was thinking, and then we'll go to the answers because I think they probably haven't watched all the episodes, maybe came in on this one. And there's still a lot of people out there that think that Arthur Lee Allen is the #1 suspect. So a lot of this kind of boiled back to Arthur Lee Allen. So basically, it's Tolga Kirk K4Q indicated that they wondered if Jack Terrence and Arthur Lee Allen knew each other. And of course, we've discussed this in the past, but Dennis had made a comment that Jack stated when seeing Arthur Lee Allen on the news as a suspect for the Zodiac killings, that he referred to him as being, "That's the nice man who gave me a ride home from Lake Berryessa." I thought that was extremely interesting that this was something that Dennis would have remembered or brought up, though he didn't actually state the time frame in which case the statement was made or when Arthur Lee Allen was actually on the news being accused of being the Zodiac. But that was one comment or one question that was asked by this individual. He talks about they both love hunting and they both had cars and traveled to wooded picnic areas. So he's putting in a lot of commonalities between Arthur Lee Allen and Jack Terrence. Now, am I turned on here? Okay, so the individual goes on to say things like, even if they weren't very close friends, did they at least know each other? Perhaps they were estranged and distant. Zodiac killer was clever and Jack didn't attract much attention, which of course is what I've said all along. Didn't attract much attention as an individual because you wouldn't want to lead them back to you as a suspect, but as the Zodiac persona, obviously was wanting all kinds of attention. I know that the individual made mention to, let's see here, allegedly Jack's Zodiac costume and knife don't match the actual Zodiac costume found at the crime scene. I don't know where they thought they found this at the crime scene because the hood was not found at the crime scene. And that there were no DNA traces that were found. So my response was, not knowing where they got their information from, the hood and the knife didn't match because it says, I don't know where you get your information that the hood and knife didn't match because by all descriptions they did. And if the hood wasn't a match, the FBI wouldn't have wasted time doing a DNA test. They did not find any DNA or blood on the hood per the FBI. But I highly doubt that they would have told us if they had found any of it. I mean, honestly speaking, the FBI keeps things pretty close to the hip, and they're not about to give away, anything, especially in an open investigation. They did keep the hood as evidence and stated that the fabric predated the Zodiac crimes. It is called a juke fabric, which is a gunny sack-like material, and it had the holes for the clip-on sunglasses. So that's pretty damning, if you ask me. And the fact that it was found packed away inside of a PA system that was owned by Jack was also pretty damning. As for the DNA, he said in 2002, a DNA sample from the saliva on the stamps in the letter was compared to Allen's DNA, but no conclusive result was reached. Again, that is misinformation. As for Arthur Lee Allen and the DNA test, he was cleared on all aspects of forensics, including DNA in 2000, with Harry Phillips on 20 on 20, who arranged to have 8 suspects' DNA ran. And I'm pretty sure that included everybody from Lawrence Kane to, all these people that we've gone over and ruled out as possible suspects. I spoke to Harry Phillips personally and asked why Jack's was not ran in this episode, and his response was because we knew the other 8 suspects were not the Zodiac. So again, what does that tell you? What he doesn't say is, they're looking at Jack obviously as a valid suspect, and knowing that he hadn't been ruled out as a suspect, they did not include in the DNA testing, which I thought was rather odd, because I thought the goal here was to figure out who committed these crimes and to do whatever it took to have that happen. So why would a major media company do DNA testing on people they already knew were not the suspects? I just really don't understand that. Again, unless it's just to keep this thing as a mystery. Let's see. Arthur Lee Allen also died with a typewritten note in his hand that said he was not the Zodiac. The Zodiac would have written a novel laughing at how he was never caught. So I highly doubt in any aspect that Arthur Lee Allen could be considered the Zodiac killer. He went on to talk about the shoe print matches, the size of Arthur and Jack because of its military boot. And he talks about the Zodiac watch. So he's saying that evidence matching Arthur includes a Zodiac branded watch, a glove number. I don't know what a glove number means. I would really be interested in finding out what that person was trying to say by that, and a bloody knife. So a bloody knife, if they found a bloody knife, that DNA probably could have been tested to see if that blood matched any of the victims. So again, I've not heard about the bloody knife or this glove number thing, but I would think that that bloody knife would either rule him in or rule him out as a possible Zodiac suspect, and it did neither. So I'm not sure, again, where they got their information from, but that just tells me what's floating around out there on the internet. I did mention back that Arthur Lee Allen's Zodiac watch was a gift, I believe, from his mother. So it was just an unlucky coincidence that he owned it. It wasn't something he went out and purchased himself because he was priding himself as being the Zodiac killer. And then he goes on to say something about a Rick Marshall. Let's see here. Rick Marshall was also a key suspect and the radio operator. So I think he meant to say he might have known Jack. And also, Rick's appearance matches the eyewitness Zodiac profile and resembles Zodiac sketches. I am not familiar with who Rick Marshall is. And Jack has been the best suspect since 2000. So not just because of the circumstantial evidence and everything that I've put forth in this presentation, but the handwriting as well. And law enforcement has had DNA, fingerprints, and palm prints of Jack. And the San Francisco Police Department did everything they could to either not test these items or to botch the results in the DNA. So as far as I know, the FBI has one more envelope with Jack's DNA, and I'm not sure why they haven't ran it. Either way, that's the YouTuber comment and responses there. Hopefully they're watching. Maybe they'll reach out and let me know where they got that other information from or what it is that they might be talking about. And then I skipped across one of the funniest cases I've probably had in a very long time. It was a trust case, in which case they gave me known handwriting samples, and some of those samples actually came in on some political rhetoric, which of course I would not normally have settled down to have read, because I'm here to analyze the handwriting. And quite frankly, the handwriting that is on these documents aren't a signature of this individual. So it's not like I would have been comparing this anyways. It was just extra pieces of evidence that they gave me in the handwriting. While I'm looking at this man's responses, I'm about dying and falling out of my chair because some of the things that he has to say. Now, keep in mind, this man is 80 years old, I believe, 79, 80 based on the time frame. So this is letters that were sent to him back in 2016, and it's called Citizens Against Government Waste, which we know that, I mean, it's a lot of these organizations that are sending out these type of mailers are really targeting elderly people and asking them for money to help fight their cause. And so this guy is actually responding to the statements that are made on this piece of paper, and he is donating $20 at this point. But I'm going to read some of it just because I think everybody could use a good laugh on a Friday. He checkmarked, yes, I have signed my citizens' demand because it is absolutely outrageous that the Department of Justice would move to limit the investigative powers of its inspector general. The 80-year-old man responds, Congress passed the law detailing the IG's job. So he's alluding to the fact that there is law and precedent for the IG's job. So he's letting them know that this is already on the books. Why, not why. We'll get into that here in a minute. It says the IGs are government's most potent watchdogs. And if this effort by the DOJ succeeds, other agencies will very likely follow the DOJ's lead and restrict the ability of their IGs to uncover waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. And we're seeing a lot of that right now in California. So is this the predecessor to what has now taken place in states like California, where there's nobody watching over what it is our governor is allowing to happen with the funds, going from a surplus to a deficit? We are hearing that Trump wants to investigate Newsom and California's wasteful spending and fraud that has occurred under the watchful eye of Governor Newsom. And this man's response was, the employers of the government don't triumph. It says, forcing the inspector general to ask for permission from the agencies they want to investigate before conducting an inquiry will shield government officials from public scrutiny and potential prosecution. This is nothing more than an effort by Obama administration to cover up government waste and corruption. And he writes underneath of it, congressionally produced law. So he keeps repeating that this job for the IGs is a law, and the DOJ shouldn't be able to stop them. But here's this organization asking for money to try and stop the DOJ. It says, I understand that CAGW will face powerful opponents in the Obama administration and potentially the government employees' union bosses. So here we are still talking about the mob again. To win this vitally important battle, you urgently need both my signed citizens' demand and my largest possible contribution in the amount of. And the amounts that they're asking for is 100, 125, 140, or other, which is where he placed the $20. The check contributions, it says, please make your check payable to Citizens Against Government Waste, or CAGW. Contributions are tax deductible to the extent permitted by law. I about fell out because this is where it started to get funny. The 80-year-old responds, this is like marriage. It's not the initial cost, it's the upkeep. In a subsequent notification that was sent to him again by Citizens Against Government Waste, they are now telling him in recent years a number of inspectors general have been at the center of uncovering headline-making scandals such as those at the Internal Revenue Service and the use of a non-governmental email server by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. What's more, CAGW regularly works with the various IGs in publicizing wasteful spending and government abuse. We are often the main non-governmental organization focusing attention on their findings. Further, our efforts frequently get the IG's recommendations acted on or incorporated into law. He writes in big letters, start here, number 1. Says, in fact, a 2014 analysis showed that taxpayers could save as much as $43 billion if officials running the biggest federal departments would do what their IGs recommend. That's kind of scary. I mean, if there's any ounce of truth to the solicitation of these letters that are going out, that we could be saving money if the IGs were able to do their jobs, make the recommendations, and our government agencies would follow these, that's a little bit scary. It says, however, having the various IGs uncovering, publicizing, and prosecuting wasteful and potentially illegal acts by government officials is unwelcome by some at the top of the Obama administration. And the 80-year-old writes, then they need to clean up their acts. Oh my goodness, if that's not what we talk about. They go on to say, indeed, this administration has a long pattern of trying to obstruct the work of the IGs. For example, the DOJ has unlawfully denied or delayed IG access to the records concerning inquiries into Operation Fast and Furious. Not sure what that operation is. I did mean to look that up, but Operation Fast and Furious and alleged sex parties involving Drug Enforcement Administration agents. The 80-year-old writes in capital letters, that's exactly what prompted the investigation. So evidently there was a blocking of this investigation is what I'm hearing this man say. And he's obviously been on this earth a lot longer than I have been. So he has probably watched a lot of these different things go down. They went on to say, now, in an effort to further curtail public scrutiny, the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel has issued a 68-page memorandum saying that the DOJ's Inspector General must get permission from the agencies it oversees to obtain access to wiretaps, grand jury testimony, or credit information about individuals under investigation by the IG. He writes, how stupid is this? Way stupid. Resign, legal counselors. Oh my goodness, I thought I was going to lose myself. They go on to say, what's more, this effort by DOJ lawyers to strip power from the IG at the Department of Justice is clearly a trial balloon to see if Congress and the American people will let them get away with it. He says, if you can't, the 80-year-old says, if you can't tolerate investigation, get a different job. The law is clear. I just love this guy. They go on to say, in response to the memorandum, the DOJ's Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz said, Congress meant what it said when it authorized Inspector General to independently access all documents necessary to conduct effective oversight. Without such access, our office's ability to conduct its work will be significantly impaired. The 80-year-old writes, see, that's how stuff is fairly evaluated. Apparently, President Obama's new Attorney General and others in the DOJ are desperately trying to give a free pass to lawbreakers and those who are wasting taxpayer funds or abusing their powers within the federal government. The 80-year-old writes, duh. I did not see that one coming, honestly speaking. They go on to say, on top of CAGW's a strong objections to the outrageous new policy, a number of Republican and Democratic members of Congress are decrying the DOJ's efforts to protect lawbreakers. He writes, the 80-year-old writes, they should blush. Representative Conyers, the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, also asserted that the IG should not have to ask permission from the very agency he oversees. What's more, he called the opinion a departure from the plain text of the statute and the intent of Congress. The 80-year-old writes, again, duh. They go on to say, clearly there is a bipartisan opposition to this effort by the DOJ to defy Congress and cover up waste and corruption within the government. If CAGW can both generate media attention all across the country about what the DOJ has done and rally on unprecedented showing of citizen outrage, we can force the Obama administration to tell DOJ to back down. And the 80-year-old writes, they should not have revealed their stupidity in this way. The key to both generating massive news coverage and recruiting millions of Americans to oppose the DOJ's effort to cover up waste and corruption in government all starts with your signed citizens' demand. Well, it should start with a signature, right? But why are we having to pay in order to get our Congress to act upon their very own laws, to behave in accordance with those laws? So to me, again, this is why I went back to this. It reminds me of the ADL, pay us to protect you. Let's see. Key to generating both massive news coverage and recruiting millions. Yes. He responds, if they are doing their job right, the IG will note that too. Then it says, please take a moment right now to sign and return your citizens' demand when we, Oh no, I didn't want to read that line. Sorry. And plainly put, such an effort fighting the administrators, lawyers, and maybe even their union boss friends will be expensive. The 80-year-old writes, this is not a pissing contest. Just show them the 1978 law in bigger print every time they disagree. Could you imagine the size of this sign now? If we had to print it bigger each and every time they fail to do their jobs. Some ending ones was all told to wage this effort and continue our other investigations and battles against deficit producing government waste. I calculate that CAGW must raise approximately 150,000 in the next 30 days. Oh my goodness. To reach and even exceed this all-important goal, I need your special contribution when you return your citizens' demand. He says, see above, you don't have to spend more money except for printing. Because he said, just keep printing it larger. If it's humanly possible, I would like to ask you to please consider sending at least 100 or even 125 or 140. I don't think I can overstate that it will mean to our country's future if the Obama administration gets away with killing off the investigation, policing powers of our government's IG. And the 80-year-old writes, I'm not going to spend my money. The law already says what it says. Bless his heart. Like, he literally has responded to just rhetoric. I mean, these people are obviously just reaching out at this point. Good morning, Nolan. Let's welcome you to the show.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I had a problem. I starred your email, and I tried to open it that way, but I couldn't. So what I did, I went back to Juan's from last week and just clicked on that, and it worked.
Yeah, that's the one you're going to use each and every time now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we won't be receiving.
So don't erase it.
Don't erase it. Star that bad boy.
Okay. All right, cool. No, I'm good.
I think you can also save it to your favorites, if you want to be able to
What about
find
Lindsay?
it from there.
Is she coming in?
I don't know. Obviously, this is the first week with the new link. I did state that we needed to reuse it. Maybe. That's a good possibility. I don't know if I've seen a response from her this morning. I was just covering the Citizens Against Government Waste, which is a conservative group that was reaching out to one of its constituents, I'm going to call for better. I mean, he must be a member of the conservative group, I would assume, to be receiving these mailers, but they're asking for money to help fight government waste and spending, and and to prevent the DOJ from excluding the oversight or resisting the oversight from the IG.
Stop giving money and weapons to Israel. That'll save a bunch of money.
Don't say that. You'll be called an anti-Semitic and you'll get sued. At any rate, this man was absolutely hilarious. So he's about 80 years old, and on the letter, so it's a case I just recently had to take, and these were some known samples I was provided. Otherwise, I would have never read any of the stuff. But he alludes to the fact that what these people are calling on him for was much like a marriage. It's not about the initial cost, it's about the upkeep. And he keeps telling him, I don't need to give you my money. The law already exists. Every time they disagree with allowing the oversight to occur, he says, just print the law bigger and show it to him again. I don't know. I was in hysterics when I was reading this because it even alludes to the Obama administration, sex parties with the DEA agents and all these things, which this is back in 2016, right? So this is before Epstein is, well, no, not before. I guess Epstein took his first fall 2006, 2007. But now they're talking about sex part. This organization is calling out the Obama administration for sex parties. So the weaponizing of media obviously has been going on for eons, though I don't usually have any past examples of it until I saw this, and I was just like, holy crap. This just kind of unseals what I'm saying, is that it's just 1 year after the next, they continue their egregious acts against
propaganda.
The propaganda. Well, it's likely propaganda that these people are putting out for sure, but they're literally telling us that this stuff is going on within our own political walls, and that Obama is having sex parties. So is this the onset of them
Well, how do they know unless they've
recognizing?
been at one?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, where do you get this information from? Is it real? But again, I
Yeah.
likened it to the ADL because when I looked up Citizens Against Government Waste, you won't find this to be a coincidence. They are a 501c4 nonprofit organization, think tank, and fiscally conservative advocacy group in the USA. So every dollar they're taking in is not taxed, and they're claiming to want to
Wow.
protect us. So to me, it just sounds like mob and insurance all over again.
Yeah.
Either way,
I,
that was my
I
tangent.
wouldn't trust him.
He obviously doesn't either. And he's mad. He's like, it's a law in the books. This is stupid. I think he says, I would go back to this one where he says this. One of his responses was they should blush, and the other one is, how stupid is this? Way stupid. Resign, legal counselors.
Yeah. They're worried about spending to fund programs for the public and libraries and arts and things like that. And they cry about that, but they don't say anything about military spending and the military industrial complex and the waste that goes on there.
Exactly. Well, and I think that that's what he's alluding to here is that basically the IGs have been blocked by the DOJ. And so Citizens Against Government Waste is trying to fight this battle to allow the IGs to do their job, to uncover this wasteful spending, fraud, and bad acts that are being committed by the government. So it obviously tells you that there are agencies out there that don't feel that our government has been doing us right either. So it kind of just falls in line with what I'm saying that's going on here with all of this stuff. It just,
Quick
it was,
question.
yeah.
On my phone, I got a little pop up that Trump wants to deport Robert De Niro. Do you know why? What did De
I don't
Niro
know
do?
if
I
I
know
can.
he said something anti-Trump, and now Trump's threatening to deport him, but he's a citizen. So I don't know.
Where is he going to deport him to?
Yeah, I don't know. He's a United States citizen. Come on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think sometimes this stuff is just, again, it's just
Propaganda.
weapon.
Yeah. It just
Yeah, propaganda, weaponizing stuff. I mean, I don't discount that Trump said it because he does say some stupid things, but like, yeah, where
yeah,
would you
because
deport him to?
I've known that De Niro is not a Trumper, that's for sure. But there's free speech. You can't threaten to deport someone just because they criticize you.
No, and especially as
First Amendment right.
right, and when you're a political official or you're some high-ranking person, like literally, you have to take just about whatever anybody says about you because it's supposedly their thought, their opinion. That goes along with freedom of speech, but I mean, honestly, you can't say things that are untrue that would harm the person either, right?
Right. No, you don't want to lie on people.
Well, they're just full of lies.
I just found it
I can
funny
tell.
that Trump's reaction. I'm going to deport him.
Well, he stole a president, so I'm not putting anything past him. Oh my goodness. So we're now going to climb into to Jack and Nora for 1997, and I found some interesting things. So to add on to the fact that I don't believe the date sequences in Nora's diary are correct, we're going to see some information that is going to kind of peel back that part where I say that I don't believe that the dates are all correct as they've been corrected. Okay. So that leads me to believe that the original dates that were written in there were probably more correct. And what she changed them to does not coincide with other pieces of evidence that I'm finding.
That's
so
right.
On
We saw it last time. There several dates were corrected. It was weird. It was like
right
after the fact. Yeah.
So completely after the fact.
So what year and month does Jack die? Not too far away, right? But
August 2006. No,
2006?
He actually he is sick with congestive heart failure. They put in a pacemaker in 1997, but he does not die until 2006. I mean, we're going to see some very strange things, including a will that he creates.
Lived another 9 years. Then. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So on March 24th, 1997, per Nora's diary, the family left California to pick up Dennis and head to Washington to Mary's for the Easter holiday. So they no sooner than have gotten back, Jack has been hospitalized, gotten a pacemaker, and they are back on the road in March for Easter. So this tells you how much traveling and how easy it is for Jack to pick up and just go somewhere and drive great distances. And this, like you said, we thought he was gravely ill at this point, but it turns out, obviously, he's hopping back on the road once again for Easter. I say he always travels for the holidays to either mom or from mom to California, to Washington. He's all over the place. On March 26, 1997, Jack receives a letter in regards to an auto accident on February 26, 1997, and is still living on Nelda Street. But this does not coincide with Nora's diary, that he was in the hospital on February 26th, and that there's no mention of an accident in her diary. So there's nothing that's said about this accident, but we do have this Allstate notice that came out, and it says, our insured, Jack Terrence, date of loss, February 26, 1997. But her diary says something different. So either he was out, something's going on there. So it tends to make me believe that Jack did come back on Christmas Day, rather than her claiming that it was previous to Christmas Day, that date had been altered and backdated to another date after it had already been written in, and how one would not confuse the likes of Christmas when your loved one came home versus any other day of the week. Right? I mean, that's something you're going to take notice. What's that?
Maybe the accident was in the hospital parking lot.
I can see Jack getting out of the hospital. Woman, move over. I'm driving.
They both can't be true. Either he got in an auto accident or he was in the hospital.
Yeah, and I tend to believe that the insurance company does not have their date of loss wrong. And it has even the injured parties on there. A Tara Gutierrez and a Maria Lopez were the injured parties in it.
No, they're good crooks. They know what they're doing. Insurance companies.
So, yeah, and the notification says the investigation of your recent accident has been completed. As you may know, the above injured party retained an attorney to file a claim against your policy. Therefore, the file has now been reassigned to me to obtain and investigate any medical wage information which your policy may be legally obligated to pay. So it looks to me like, yep, it's being called his fault. And then in Nora's diary on March 28th, 1997, they headed out on March 24th to California to pick up Dennis. On March 28th, they left Sacramento for Washington. March 30th, they left Washington to come back to California. So Jack is returning from California to Texas. However, we have seen, well, we just talked about that backdating. I won't go back over that. We do know that she is suffering from diabetes, so maybe she is not quite right in the mind. At the same time, we know that the diabetes did, in fact, take a leg and her eyesight and some other things, which we'll talk about later. On April 5th of 1997, Nora's diary indicates they've just returned home from California and Washington for Easter. I also want to note that from the John Benet Ramsey ransom note to this point in time, I have no unsolved murders. So while Jack's in the hospital and while, they're traveling and all of these things, we don't have anything that is going on that I note as unsolved or in the proximity of Jack at that point. And then on April 14th, 1997, we see Jack's living will, and he calls himself John W. Terrence. So this is the first time I see him call himself John, and he's making a will under that name, which is very odd because he's always called himself Jack. And you're going to be even more shocked.
Yeah, but his official name is John, though, right? Yeah, and Jack is like a nickname for John.
No, please don't confuse people. I don't want people to hear that and think that. His legitimate legal name is J.W. Terrence. That's how he was born. That's how his military records refer to him. Your military records are going to be the true form of your legal name, period. You don't get to just write down whatever. J and in
he
quotes.
Just has initials for a legal name. He doesn't have a
correct. Name? He was born J.W. Terrence Jr. So he is the second. His father was also born J.W. Terrence, but went by John. So
Okay.
this adaptation of John in 1997 is new. We haven't seen him use John until this time frame. He'd always use Jack, and I think that was to differentiate himself between him and his father. So dad was
Okay.
John, he was Jack. Right. So you're going to just die. I've never read the likes of this type of a will before. It says, to my family, my physician, my lawyer, my clergyman, to any medical facility in whose care I happen to be, to any individual who may become responsible for my health, welfare, or affairs. Death is as much a reality as birth, growth, maturity, and old age. It is the only certainty of life. If the time comes when I, John W. Terrence Jr., can no longer take part in decisions of my own future, let this statement stand as an expression of my wishes while I am still of sound mind. If the situation should arise in which I am in terminal state and there is no reasonable expectation of my recovery, I direct that I be allowed to die a natural death and that my life not be prolonged by extraordinary measures. I do, however, ask that medication be mercifully administered to me to alleviate suffering, even though this may shorten my remaining life. This statement is made after careful consideration and is in accordance with my strong convictions and beliefs. I want the wishes and directions here expressed carried out to the extent permitted by law, insofar as they are not legally enforceable. I hope that those to whom this will is addressed will regard themselves as morally bound by these provisions. If it is permissible under the laws of the jurisdiction in which I may be hospitalized, I direct that the physician supervising my care upon a terminal diagnosis to discontinue hydration, water, should the continuation of hydration be judged to result in unduly prolonging a natural death. If it is permissible under the laws of the jurisdiction in which I may be hospitalized, I direct that the physician supervising my care upon a terminal diagnosis to discontinue feeding, should the continuation of hydration be judged to result in unduly prolonging a natural death. I herewith release any and all hospitals, physicians, and others, both for myself and for my estate, from any and all liability for complying with this declaration to the fullest extent provided by law. I herewith authorize my spouse, if any, not Nora, my wife, my spouse, if any, or any relative who is related to me within the third degree, to effectuate my transfer from any hospital or other healthcare facility in which I may be receiving care, should that facility decline or refuse to effectuate the instructions given herein. So basically, he's saying it's okay to take me from that hospital if they're trying to prolong my life.
Right. If they're not going to let me die in peace, then move me.
No, but this
Take me
kind of,
somewhere that will.
this kind of fits in with Dennis making the claim that Jack pulled his own oxygen, telling Charles to go to Walmart, and when you come back, I won't be here. And he hastened his own death. So this actually helps to confirm what Dennis stated that Charles told him that Jack had said, which was, I won't be here when you get back. And then he subsequently hastened his own death by pulling his own oxygen tubes. These are also very odd ways of thinking, in my perception. I've never seen a will written like this. It doesn't bequest
Right.
anything. This is more like an advanced healthcare directive, I guess, right? But he's calling it a
Yes.
uniform
Much
living
more
will.
so.
Right.
Yes.
And his writing, I know that there wasn't no AI and chat GPT out there, but this is some intelligent writing.
Right. No, he's a highly literate.
Highly literate, which makes that whole trying to dumb himself down for the zodiac stuff, where he spelled and was able to spell really big words, but then couldn't spell something like control or Christmas, or that definitely instills the fact that he
No,
was attempting.
that was a pattern. It was disguising.
Yeah, it was a ploy. He was trying to dumb it down
Yeah.
and make it look like he was illiterate when he is very, very literate. I mean, I was quite impressed by the writing. I just was a little shocked that it didn't bequest anything to anybody. It didn't tell anybody what to do with the disposition of his property or anything else like that. It just basically says, don't prolong my death. Kill me, basically. Let me just
That's right.
die.
He was also a jack of all trades, from being like an inventor and a scientist and a computer genius. Then he would take menial jobs too.
That's what's crazy. He was
He
very,
was all
it
over
didn't
the
make
board.
any sense. Yeah. Well, and at this point in 1997, I don't believe we show him having had a job since, I think, Arizona in 93, 95. I wonder if this is, can you see this? My text wouldn't go through, bad service. Okay. So yeah, I'm just now hearing from Lindsay. It looks like she was having some problems with her phone and maybe she couldn't get on. Either way.
Okay.
So very, very interesting that A, he's calling himself John. B, that he is willing, he's asking, if I'm bad, then just let me fade away. Don't feed me, don't drink me, don't. That's just a really, I don't know, can we even do that? Have we ever been able to do that? Deprive somebody of those things?
Well, generally they do whatever they can to keep them alive as long as they can. But
right.
Most people don't have directives like this. This is very
no.
rare,
This
like
is very
said.
Kevorkian. This is
Yeah.
very Kevorkian.
Malthusian as well.
What's that?
Malthusian. He was an economist. Basically,
Oh.
let the poor die off if they have to.
Oh dear. Hi. All right. Well, and then we have this. Jack is on Nelda. So this is April 30th of 1997. This is another it's a welcome to IDT quick start guide, and it's for the let's see, internet provider. So Jack is climbing onto the internet in 1997, obtaining the software.
That's early.
It's very early. Yeah, I mean, I want to say that that's 97. Yeah, I graduated 91. We did have computers. I feel like I wasn't actively using email systems until late 90s, early 2000s, it feels like.
Yeah,
I do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was on top of it.
25 years. Yeah, 25 years or so.
And what would the expense have been at this point in time, since it wasn't, being mass used by most of society?
Right.
There's going to, how? I'm just saying, he's at the top of his game of whatever technology is coming out.
Scanners and attachments to emails back then. There was like faxes.
Yeah, he had fax machine well before anybody else did as well. Like, this man was at the top of the technology game, and there had to be a way. Yeah.
Right.
So here's a CompUSA service request. He is sending in, so this is just more proof that he has computer literacy, and he purchased this computer system 95, 96. So even before climbing onto the internet, but we've known he's always had computer capabilities all the way back to Arizona in the early 90s. I think we were still working in the early 90s. I'm trying to think of when we started seeing like the computer bus. I remember the computer bus coming around to the school, and that's how we got our first experience and trial with the I'm going to forget the name of that system. It was just the printing was green. You were learning to actually make commands, DOS commands, was it?
Yeah, I didn't even have a PC until after I graduated from law school in '89. And I think it was my third year of law school is when they set up the computer center at the law school. So people without computers could go there and, compose their documents and this and that.
So like
most people didn't have their own computers in the late 80s.
Exactly. 100%. I completely agree with that. All right, so July 7th, 1977, it looks like the family once again heads from Texas to California until August 1st of 1997. So that's a good, month that he's gone. So again, showing that he's not working. During this diary entry, Nora mentions a kitten they had found at their home that was identical to another cat they thought might be brothers. However, that kitten was tiny and sick, as she puts it in the diary. They nursed it back to health, and Nora describes the kitten as tiny so as to explain away Jack's reasoning as to why he didn't see the kitten before smashing its head in the door jamb of their Suburban. Yeah, and I don't know if she often rationalized or justified the things that Jack did, but Jack has been known to kill the family animals. He was said to have killed the neighbors' animals. Like, this man did not have any empathy for animals whatsoever. So to say that he accidentally, and I'm thinking a Chevy Suburban is pretty high off the ground, how did this little
Yeah,
sickly
that's a big
kitten,
vehicle.
yeah, how did this sickly little kitten get itself up into that door jamb? I don't know. Let's see. Some of the stories that I remember about animals was the neighbors. The story Jack told about the hog farm
The
where
dog, he shot the dog or something.
yeah, he killed the neighbor's dogs, and I think that was plural. And then he told a story about a hog farm that he was on that he lit up all of them by putting a ground wire into their trough and lighting it up with electricity. So when he called them in for feed, because they kept knocking him over, they kept messing with them. The pigs did. So he was mad at these pigs. So he
Pigs
basically
are smart.
hotwired. I know. He hot wired their trough, and when they came to feed, he killed off the entire lot. And he chuckled and said he left the farm before the owners had gotten home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got
Um,
Oh, you did everything. Okay.
It looks.
he stated that Dennis or Jack told Dennis at one point in time that if
There's all alphabetical.
okay, I'm getting feedback from you, Nolan. It said if Jack told Dennis that if he would just kill something, they could be friends. There's also family has reported to me that Jack had killed the family pets in a previous marriage, and Dennis described finding Jack with Charles's cat in a pillowcase about to kill it when he stumbled upon Jack. So Jack's just well known for killing animals, and here Nora saying like it was an accident. I disbelieve that it was an accident. So now we start to see after August 1st, when they return back to Texas, we start to see murders pick up again. And again, these are just in proximity of where Jack is at, and whether or not Jack is capable of doing this or if Jack is even responsible for it. I just have them in here because they are unsolved murders. But on August 25th of 1997, coincidentally, after this long break of nothing, we start to have murders in Texas again. This one's in New Caney, Texas. It's a missing person, a white male, 6'3" 210 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes, and nickname of Kuta Kenta. I don't know what that means. September 1st of 1997, entry in Nora's diary about Jack getting a loan to move back to California. She has complaints about her eyes again, which we saw that begin in 1997, but this might be where the eyesight is starting to be lost. And Nora says they will pull the travel trailer. She must mean with the Suburban. But then if Charles is driving the small U-Haul, I questioned who's driving the Honda Accord that is wrecked in December, and the Honda Civic that was driven back in December of 1997 after Flova's funeral. September 6th of 1997, they moving back to California in Nora's diary. Flova is still in a senior home, and their plans are to go back and visit, and they arrive in California on September 10th. I'm rather shocked that in Flova's frail age, Jack wanted to move away. I know Nora wanted to. I know Nora wanted to be out of there, but I'm shocked that Jack would leave her in that condition when he supposedly picked up and left a family holiday, right, in 1996, right before the John Benet Ramsey stuff, to go back because mom was sick. And now he's just going to up and skedaddle out of the state while she's at her gravest point. It just doesn't really kind of make sense to me.
September. He's in ill health too.
Well, no, obviously he's doing well. He's driving all over the place.
Interesting. Well, but he was in the hospital that year, right? In February.
Yeah. They gave him a pacemaker, though. Once they gave him the pacemaker and programmed the pacemaker
good to go.
correctly,
okay.
He's evidently good to go. Yeah, I mean, he's traveling. I don't know too many people who are gravely ill that want to be in a car, locked up in a car for 10, 12 hours at a time. September 16th of 1997, they found a trailer space on Watton, Auburn. This is the location that we discussed that has now been occupied by the FBI, or across the street, became the FBI's headquarters in Sacramento when they finally opened up an FBI office in Sacramento. September 20th of 1997, greater than a 30-year-old unidentified human skeletal remains at the 3400 block of Riley Felsel Road, Springs, Texas. It says citizen was making a trail for a deer stand in a wooded area in the 3400 block of Riley Felsel Road. approximately 1.5 miles north of Rayford Road. The citizen observed a human skull and notified the MCSO. Deputies investigated and recovered additional human remains. Examination by experts revealed that the skull contained a bullet hole. A probable description obtained was a white male greater than 30 years of age. So again, this evidently was just unidentified remains, and it did not actually give us an idea of when the person was killed. Now we see here on, I don't think I have a date for this, but this is Jack actually selling a computer system. And I want to say that this is probably before they left Texas, because this ad in the newspaper is in a Texas newspaper. Again, like I said, it doesn't have a date. It has an expiration for a credit card. So it tells me it clearly happened before the credit card had expired on October 31st of 1997. But I don't know when it was sold. I'm just assuming at this point that it was before they left.
So on the last slide, the previous slide, and I noticed it said they found a trailer park in Watton, Auburn. I know that place well. It's right by my mechanic. I've been by there 100 times.
Okay, so I'm trying to think now. What in Auburn? Oh, okay, yeah, no,
Auburn. Right by the freeway.
This is not the one where the FBI set up, because that was on Orange Grove and was it Manzan? No, that's in Auburn. Okay, so he's been at two different Auburn locations. One is more closer to American River College, which is where the FBI set up.
Yes,
maybe that was,
and that's where the sheriff's substation is now too. Yeah,
right. That was I want to say maybe more than 1979 trailer park he was in. So now he's at the Watton Auburn, which is closer to 80, right?
Yes, by that AM/PM right there.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. Here we actually see the money order where Jack is paying back the loan that he took to move to California. But I want everybody to take note, because as I said, he is using multiple versions. So he went from making his will on April of 1997 that said John W. Terrence. He is now taking out a loan with Beneficial Bank for, well, I don't think it tells me what the overall amount was, but it was a loan to move back to California. And the name under it is, he's purchasing from his own account at Wells Fargo under the name Jack Torrance, Torrance. And that was one of the names he was convicted under, right? But that was one of the names he was convicted under, and likely the reasons why my private investigators couldn't run a background check and show that he never committed any crimes, because the names that they were looking for was not the names that he was ever convicted under. So when I looked at this money order, and it shows that it is a personal money order from Wells Fargo Bank, it also shows purchaser's account number. So he has an account with them. So he's opened an account under the name Jack Torrance.
Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance. It's the little kid in the Shining.
Again, it's just showing all of these multiple different uses of names.
Yeah, well, he's a chameleon.
Yep. Did we just overshoot? Oh, we are completely over. We need to quit right now.
Yeah.
Overshot, way overshot. All right, you guys. We will pick up where we left off today next week on Friday. Thank you, Nolan, again for being here. Everybody have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Now I know how I get the link.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great week, everyone.
Oh,